What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Haunted Beard. Thank you again for joining me. So just like in my last video, this is another found footage film that I just recently heard about and just became available for streaming on demand. And this one's called the Glenarma Tapes. And this tells the story of a handful of students who go to this College of the Arts who go missing in the spring of 2020 in the Glenarma Forest in Northern Ireland. And it is something that has remained a mystery until now. And the time frame of the movie takes place 2 years after the disappearances, because this is when the footage has been discovered. And so we are now watching the, of course, found footage from what exactly happened to these students who went missing in the forest. The film opens up with some newsreel stuff and, introducing us into the mystery, and then we cut to the found footage aspect. And this one follows two college friends, Jimmy and Gordy, as Jimmy is doing his college essay. He's filming a documentary on the day in the life of his friend, Gordon. And so he's following Gordon around throughout his daily activities. And Gordon here is a bit of a troublemaker, but I kind of took a liking to his character. He's this guy who I think the filmmakers actually do a pretty decent job giving you, kind of fleshing out his character a little bit and giving you a reason to kind of to root for him and sympathize with him, as his home life is kind of a disaster and he's having to take care of his younger sister. And so you kind of just sort of take a liking to this guy and, you want him to do well, sort of thing. But like I said, he's a bit of a troublemaker. He always has to have the last word. He always has something smart to say, but I kind of just couldn't help but take a liking to this guy. So what ends up happening is him and Jimmy overhear this conversation between two of their professors at the college that they are having this affair and they are going to meet that night, have a little rendezvous at the Glenarma Forest. And so they convince two of their girlfriends at the college to go out there because they are going to film them and catch them red-handed. And overall, I had a decent enough time with Glenarma Tapes. I enjoyed it enough. It's not anything mind-blowing that we haven't seen before, but for somebody who is kind of a sucker for found footage, I did enjoy this movie for the most part. Now, it hits a little bit of a lull up until about the 35 to 40 minute mark. It kind of slows down a little bit, and I was like, all right, something needs to happen, and then luckily something does happen, and then the rest of the movie kind of, kicks into gear. But once the horror kind of kicks into gear, I had a pretty fun time with it. Now, there are some complaints I could make. What ends up happening is they each strap these GoPros to their heads, and so you're able to get multiple perspectives, which I like. However, some of the recordings that we get, just the editing and stuff like that, it gets a little confusing as far as whose perspective you're seeing and, who you're watching. So there's a little bit of confusion there with the editing, but for the most part, I kind of like how they were able to implement the multiple point of views. It just kind of, it makes it feel larger and kind of expands the whole scope of everything. Now, I won't give away what happens and what they find in the woods, but I liked the angle that they took it. I kind of liked the decision that they made in terms of what they uncover. And so it gives way to just some pretty fun found footage sequences. There's a few pretty cool kind of first-person shooter, first-person POV type stuff that works pretty well. And then a final thing I'll say is regarding the ending, and I won't get into spoilers, but it really has to do with about the last 20 minutes. And it's a bit of a mixed bag. And it's weird because oftentimes criticisms regarding a movie has to do with they should have edited stuff out, and like there's a lot of sort of filler and unnecessary stuff, and usually the criticism is it could have been shorter. Well, this, I feel like they could have stretched it out and expanded on it more. This movie's only like 78 minutes, I think, and that last 20 minutes kind of just rushes by real quick when I feel like they had enough story and enough stuff to unpack where they could have probably stretched it out for another maybe 15 minutes or so. And I think it just would have made it better. But I like the direction they go, and I kind of like I like from just a story perspective, sort of the decision and the direction that they take it. I just wish they would have kind of stretched it out and fleshed it out a little bit more. But overall, I still had a pretty good time with this one. If this one sounds interesting to you, I think it's at least worth a watch. It's not going to be an all-timer or anything like that, but I did enjoy myself as somebody who is a fan of found footage. So if it sounds good, check it out. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the Glenarma tapes. That is all I have for you today. Thank you once again for watching. And if you got something out of this video, do me a favor and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.